Brother against brother, discomfortable cousin, knowest thou not that when the searching eye of heaven is hid behind the globe that lights the lower world, then thieves and robbers range abroad unseen in murders and in outrage, boldly? Here, Scene 2, Act 3, Richard II, 6:30 A.S. A full score of men panted and beat against the waves with all that they had. The crew was to wrestle as much with the storm bearing down upon them as they did against their oars. It was as if the fury of the gods themselves was crashing against the longship, which was already damaged from a recent battle. It was a 12-meter-long boat, an 8 meters across ship, with sails the same color as the sea that currently menaced them, with a black wolf woven into the white cloth. The ship was still capable of travel, but none were sure if it could withstand the current storm. The creaking of the ship drew several hoarse screams of fear. Their cries were drowned out by one particularly fierce wave that nigh on toppled the boat.
Heed to the rocks.
A voice cut through the storm. It was the captain speaking of the rocks that lay close to the rocky mountainous shore that loomed high above them.
Pay heed to the rocks? You can take your rocks and take them up the rear. We know.
One more voice broke through the raging wind, spurting out some water from his mouth that slapped against the man's face.
Who said that? Who said that?
The captain shouted back. The tallest man on the boat stood up.
I did. Is there a problem with that?
He roared like a bear. The man was 6 feet tall, easily twice the height of the captain, and twice as muscled. At the sight of him, the captain sputtered and sank back.
Look back to your oar, Einar.
Einar did as bidden, though not without one last dark look at the direction of the other man.
I told you we should have stopped at that village earlier in the day and waited the storm out.
The first mate it was who snapped this time.
If we had done as you have suggested, we would still be there offering all the booty we took to their Curiman storm goddess.
Einar angrily responded.
Now, because we followed your damnable lead, we are trapped within this tempest.
More might well have been said, with the crew spared from further whining and shrill accusations, by the front of the ship hitting the key.
We have arrived at last.
Einar breathed, more than a little relieved, only to repeat the cry when he noticed the two heads of the ship failed to notice this fact properly. Turning to another of the men, he ordered,
Kale, tie the ship. As to you, Thorgils, go alert the king's household of our arrival.
The two men did as commanded without question, though not without a backward, exasperated glance to the captain and first mate. Reaching down, he grasped an arm from the bundle of clothes near the back of the vessel.
Come along.
The woman that looked up at him was tired. Fear and exhaustion had woven their spell over her, with her chestnut curls tumbling down over her face and shoulders in disarray. Her clear blue eyes burned with uncertainty. She sought to wriggle free, only for him to catch her thin wrist again. The lady's once lovely dress of the finest red wool coin could buy was at present torn in places and failed to shield her from the storm properly. Sadly for her, it no longer covered her shoulders anymore either, so that she shivered and sneezed.
Come along,
Einar told her sharply. Hers was not the submissive spirit of a peasant girl, frightened for her life, but that of an untamed lioness. Struggling against him, she attempted to strike at him with her fists, only for her blows to deal little harm to him. Then she strove to knee him between the legs. In this, she succeeded. A series of chortles followed as the ship's crew members and her leaders appreciated the sight of the mighty Einar clutching at his most prized jewels. Einar, red-faced with embarrassment and anger, grabbed at her chains and was to lift her up onto the quay. Awaiting them on the quay by this time was none other than the head of the royal guards, Ekin. Dressed in a dark hauberk with a sword girded to his waist, at the center of the armor was the image of a black dragon. The man had perfectly coiffed brown hair with eyes akin to coal. His face was wrinkled, seemed to be permanently scowling. Signaling to the men to either side of him, they hurried over to grab the princess and pull her away. Watching this, Einar was to feel a momentary swell of pity for the lass, but squashed the notion as best he could. It was not for him to question the work he had been assigned. He was a sellsword and raider, after all. The captain of the ship approached the stone-faced guard.
What a pigs.
Ekin took a bag from his waist and handed it to the captain before turning away.
If we have need of your services again, we shall send for you.
Counted amongst the guards were those sellswords that had been hired to serve directly at the pleasure of the new High King, Achaeus II. Warriors such as Einar. More than happy to leave the captain behind him on account of his poor opinion of the man, he was hired to supervise, to ensure he did nothing untoward to the princess. He followed after the formidable Ekin when the man motioned for him to follow. The two were long-standing acquaintances. One might almost term them friends, were it not for the fact that in the sellswords line of work, few were those whom one counted as one's friends.
Anything to report?
Ekin asked of the Northman, who shrugged his massive shoulders indifferently.
Nay, other than improving himself something of an ass,
Einar grunted, catching his meaning.
we ought to have delayed on account of the storm.
But you are here now, and it is all that matters.
Never one to mince words or for the slightest of social niceties, Einar replied with a cheeky grin.
Surprised to find me still alive?
Nay,
Ekin admitted with a sidelong glance at his friends.
I did not forget what you did for me that day by leaping over the side of the ship to pull me to safety. In the name of the debt I owe, I will advise you once more not to meddle with the princess. I saw how your eye lit upon her. She is the king's to do with as he pleases, and he is a very dangerous man. Do not forget that.